Welcome back to Hang and Vibe. This is episode 4. It's summer, and this episode is going to have a lot of summer vibes in it. And before I talk about my week, I'm going to do a pre-spotlight and talk about Chill Hop Records, which is a record label that releases lo-fi hip-hop music, and I've been listening to them since 2017. Every season they release an Essentials album, so it'll be Chill Hop Essentials. In this case, they just released Summer 2024, but they've been doing it since 2016. I have been using their music in my videos back when I was vlogging in 2017, and I've used them in this podcast. So you've heard Chill Hop music in the last couple episodes, and that's what you're hearing right now as well. During the hang portion of Hang and Vibe, I typically have chill hop music playing in the background, but I just wanted to spotlight them a little bit and just point out that that's what you're hearing when I talk about how my week went and everything. So on to talking about my week. Sunday, June 16th, Jonathan is actually going on sabbatical next week, and this week he is at General Assembly, which, if you're not familiar with the OPC, the Orthodox Presbyterian Church, General Assembly is where pastors from all across the nation gather together and discuss issues that are going on in the denomination, or just issues that are going on in the world, and they kind of counsel one another and hold one another accountable and everything. And it's just a way for the denomination to kind of be united, and so he's there this week, and next week he and his family leave for sabbatical. So last week he preached his last sermons for a while. So in the morning he preached on 1 Samuel chapter 28 and chapter 31. Previously he preached on the story of David being enlisted with the Philistines, and then he skipped a chapter so that we could get the rest of the story. So this week he went back to the part of the story that he skipped, and we're in kind of like a meanwhile section. And they're actually sort of kind of poetically connected, because last week we saw that David was in trouble and God intervened. Meanwhile, Saul is in trouble. The Philistines are coming, and he's crying out to God for answers, and God is not answering him because Saul rejected God a long time ago. And since God is not answering Saul, Saul goes to a medium to bring Samuel back from the dead, because Saul thinks that Samuel's the guy to go to. Whereas one of the points that Jonathan made was, as Christians, we continue to go to God even when it feels like he's forsaken us. And as an example, he points to David's Psalms. I mean, you read some of the Psalms of Lament, and David feels like God is ignoring him and has forsaken him, and yet he continues to pray and continues to go to him because there's nowhere else to go. That's the Christian mindset. But Saul looks at it a different way and says, if God's not going to answer me, then I'm going to go to someone else for help. And so he goes to a medium and brings Saul back from the dead. And Jonathan paused at this part to just deal with the fact that, this is kind of a weird story. Like, do we really believe that witchcraft is real and that you can bring people back from the dead and everything? And he said, yes, witchcraft is real. That's why God forbids it. He doesn't forbid it because it doesn't work. He forbids it because it's wicked. And people do come back to life. Jesus came back to life. Moses and Elijah stood on the mountain with Jesus when they went up to the mountaintop. People can and will come back to life, but it's according to God's will. So Samuel comes back and basically tells Saul the same thing that he told him when he was alive, which was, God has removed the kingdom from you, and he adds that Saul was going to join him in the grave the next day. The next day was the battle with the Philistines, and Saul does die. He dies by his own hand because he was kind of a coward and didn't want the Philistines to defile him and everything, so he took his own life. And then the Philistines find out, and they go around spreading the news. The Philistines had their own gospel, which was that Israel's king, God's anointed, is dead. And of course, Jonathan pointed out that our gospel is that God's anointed is risen. The gospel of the world is that they want to preach that God is dead and everything, but our true gospel is that he is alive. So after the morning service, I met up with Mike for lunch, and we recorded episode 3 of the podcast. We had some chips and some Oberon, and I grilled some burgers on the charcoal grill. They turned out pretty good. It was fun just chilling with him, and just kicking off the summer with a cookout. In the evening, Jonathan preached on 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 19 through 27, about Paul's method of evangelism, where he becomes all things to all people. He said, although we are free, we should be slaves to one another. And he said Jonathan said that there's 2 components to this type of evangelism. There's flexibility, but there's also faithfulness. So not only are you flexible, you want to speak the language, identify with the people that you're preaching to and everything, but you want to be faithful. So you want to speak the language, but you want to speak the truth, and not compromise your message just to make it more palatable to the people that you're preaching to. He mentioned in the passage how Paul said that he becomes weak to reach the weak. And the word weak is in reference to, like in the passage on eating food sacrificed to idols. He talked about how there are some that have knowledge, and there are some that are weak. And so the gospel is for people that have knowledge and for people who don't have that knowledge. So if you have to kind of make yourself weak in order to reach the weak, that's how you should do it. So he laid out just a simple simple explanation of the gospel, which I really liked. He just basically said, you are a sinner. Sinners deserve death. So you deserve death. God sent his son Jesus, who never sinned. He lived his whole life and never sinned. And he received the punishment that we deserve for us. And you can say that he received it for you if you believe it. That's basically the gospel. And that's simple enough for just about anyone to understand. So, yeah. Paul, in this passage, he also uses some sports analogies. He talks about how athletes will, wear themselves down just to win a prize that's not even worth that much. But our reward that we will receive is not worth comparing to the suffering that we will endure in this world. So that was Sunday, and the rest of the week was pretty normal. On Wednesday, June 19th, I went to a group that my church has. It's a men's group called Dead Theologians Society. And basically in this group we meet up and we talk about, dead theologians. This week we talked about Tim Keller and Jack Miller. And we pick a specific article or a specific work by these theologians, and we discuss the thoughts presented in that work. So the topic this week was adoption as sons, so it's about sonship. And both of these guys had a lot of good stuff to say. I should have taken better notes, but yeah, it was just good. There were two podcasts, so maybe I can share the podcasts in the sermons. So maybe I can link to the sermons in the description if you want to check out the sermons that we listened to in preparation for this meeting. But on Thursday, June 20th, Haley and I watched A Quiet Place because fairly straightforward. One of the houses at Halloween Horror Nights this year is themed to A Quiet Place. So it was only natural that we watch A Quiet Place. And on Friday the 21st, we watched A Quiet Place Part 2, which we had both seen the first one, A Quiet Place, before. We actually watched it together. She had seen it before that, but I watched it for the first time with her. And it was our first time seeing A Quiet Place Part 2. And it was really good. I think I liked it better than the first one. Maybe just because it was newer to me this time, and I had seen the first one already. Both are really good, but just some of the jump scares in the second one really spooked me. Just the creatures, the aliens, just crashing through windows and just swooping down and getting people. It's just really just terrifying. And then yesterday we hung out with our parents, like we do pretty much every Saturday. So, all right, before I get into my music spotlights, I'm gonna share a couple bits of music news from this week. Brad Sucks sent out a newsletter announcing that his previously unnamed album now has a name. It's going to be called Naturally, and it's set to release sometime in November. He said in the newsletter that he had to push it out, and that he's sorry and everything, and that he'll try to have it out by November, but we'll see. And the other news this week is that Pond, an artist that both Mike and I really like, they released a new album on Friday called Stung with an exclamation point. And I have not had a chance to listen to it yet, just because I've been trying to catch up on all the other artists that I want to catch up on. But Mike said that he listened to it, and he said that it was blowing his mind. So I'm looking forward to listening to it. And the plan is for Mike to join me for another guest episode next Sunday, and we'll talk about Pond, among other artists that we both really like. So we will discuss it, just not today. Okay. For my first spotlight is going to be an artist called Swim Mountain. The theme of this week is kind of, I wanted to talk about artists that I really like, but that haven't really posted or haven't really released anything new for a while. So they're kind of not as active as some of the other artists I listen to. And I just wanted to include these artists because I don't want to overlook them just because they haven't released anything new, because I still really enjoy their music. So Swim Mountain is a project by a guy named Tom Skyrm. I don't know how to pronounce Skyrim. Scare Me. Just Skyrme is his last name. He's from London. And his style is kind of psychedelic rock. I love the song Yesterday from his first album, Swim Mountain, self-titled album, released in 2014. Yesterday has a very upbeat, energetic, kind of psychedelic rock sound. Really cool guitar riff. Has a flanger? I don't know how it's pronounced. I just realized saying it out loud instead of reading it. How the heck do you pronounce that? Flanger? I don't know. I'm going to be saying it a lot too, which sucks because I don't know how to pronounce it. But it's an effect that you hear in guitars a lot. That has that kind of sort of sound. And he just has those sort of laid back, kind of lazy vocals, really similar sound to Tame Impala, which is going to be a comparison that is going to come up multiple times throughout the summer, just because I feel like Tame Impala has that sort of summery sound to me. So if a band sounds like Tame Impala, then it sounds like summer to me. So check out Yesterday, it's really good. From his second album, called Anyone, I like the song All I Care About, released in 2017. It's a pretty groovy track. It's got some more 80s synth sound to it, and I don't know what else to say really. It's pretty groovy, and I like this sort of synthy stab kind of riff, or whatever you would call it. It's the but you can hear it in the song, so I don't need to try to replicate it. And yeah, it's just got sort of a pretty sound to it. I don't know why you're crying when I ask you where you've been. The next track is from the album If, released in 2020. The song is called Somebody New. It's also pretty groovy, and it's got a really funky kind of guitar riff, and some more sort of 80s synth sound to it. Yeah, this track is really funky and just has a really funky beat to it and everything. But yeah, they haven't released anything new since 2020. I haven't heard any news from them or anything, so I don't know if this artist is still doing music or if he's kind of on hiatus. But be sure to check out the music that he has released, because it's pretty groovy.
Today turned into tomorrow.
And the next artist is Blac Rabbit. These are two twin brothers named Amiri and Raheem Taylor. I don't know if I'm pronouncing those right, but they're twins who they started out as a Beatles cover band, which I didn't know before, but I learned that this week. And they would perform covers of Beatles songs, typically in the New York City subway, and that's where they got their start. That's where they actually became famous. I think they were on Ellen at one point, and a video of them playing the Beatles blew up on Twitter, and that's kind of how they kind of became well known. But they do have their own music as well, and one of my favorite songs by them is called All Good, from their self-titled EP in 2017. Again, very Tame Impala sound, psychedelic rock, really sweet guitar riff, and really effect heavy, again with the sort of flanger, whatever. Pretty groovy drums and just like really smooth vocals. You can hear the kind of the Beatles influences too, especially in the vocals. And yeah, I enjoy that song a lot, so check it out. From their second album called Interstella, released in 2022, they have a song called Stella that is really, really cool. It's more fast-paced. It has some cool guitar in it. There's one part, like right after the first chorus, that somehow it just has more of like a punk rock sound to me. Like the way the guitar sounds and the vocals, it almost seems like the effects are kind of toned down a bit, and so it just has more of like a punk rock sound to it. And at the end of the song, towards the end of the song, there's a part where it sort of cuts out like the song is over, and it sounds like it's over, but then the guitar sort of comes back in with a little riff, and then just all of a sudden the drums are back, and there's like this epic guitar solo at the end that always just really hypes me up when I hear it. So I love that song so much. Another song from the same album is called You Are a Star. Also just has really good guitar and nice bass riff. The chorus is my favorite part. I like the bass line in the chorus and the vocal melody. They really go well together. Like the melody of the bass and the melody of the vocals. They just complement each other really well. And the guitars is pretty cool too. So they haven't released anything new in a while, but they are still doing a show here and there. If you follow them on Facebook, they post about what they're up to. But yeah, I just wanted to to spotlight Black Rabbit because they're pretty awesome. The next band I want to spotlight is called Hot Flash Heatwave. This is a group of dudes who met in high school in California. Their names are Ted Davis, who plays the bass and vocals, Adam Abelgard. Every single one of these is going to have something I can't pronounce. Adam Abelgard plays guitar and also vocals, and then Nick Duffy plays the drums. So they started out, they released a couple albums that have a pretty like indie rock / punk sound to it. They're okay. I didn't get into the first couple albums that much, but by like 2018 they started releasing some more like groovy kind of synthwave sort of sounding stuff. In 2018 they released a song called Glow Ride, which starts out with that sound clip of I think it's called Navi from Zelda. That's like the listen. If you play Zelda, I'd never actually played Zelda, but I know that that's one of the characters in it, and that's the sound that it makes. So that's how the song opens, and then it just has a really groovy guitar riff and lots of effects and synth in it, yeah. So check out Glow Ride. The next song that I want to spotlight is called Head in the Clouds. Also really groovy, and the bass guitar in this song it's got a really like the best way I can describe it is a very active bass line. It's like hitting some high notes here and there, especially in the verses. And yeah, I really dig it. Just how like active the bass line is. So check that out.
I just get high and lay in my bed, riding excess over distance.
And then in 2022, they released an album called Sportswear, and they released one of the songs on the album is called Two Birds, and this is probably my favorite song by the artist. The guitar is fantastic. The vocals really steal the show in this song. The melody is just so pleasing, and the delivery is just really beautiful. And there's certain parts that just have like really good harmony as well, and it just sounds very like I don't know, very like heartfelt, the way that he delivers the vocals. And I just get sucked into it every time I listen to it. So yeah, enjoy that song. The last post I saw on Facebook was that their drummer was on medical leave for some mental health issues. So I don't know if they're still making music or not, but we'll see. And then the next artist I want to spotlight is an artist that is near and dear to me, called Family Force 5. I have been listening to Family Force 5 since middle school, basically. Their sort of first hit, and probably to this day their most popular song, is called Love Addict. Love Addict is from their album called Business Up Front, Party in the Back, released in 2006. So there's 3 brothers in the band and 2 others, so there's 5 of them, which I guess is why they're called the Family Force 5. But the 3 brothers kind of do the vocals. Solomon Olds does the main vocals, and his style is kind of rough and sort of like a bit screamo. He does some screaming vocals here and there, which I really like, because I like metal. I liked metal back then. I like metal to this day, so I do enjoy some screaming vocals from time to time. But Joshua Olds and Jacob Olds, who are twins, they will contribute vocals as well. But their style is a little bit different. And a couple other songs that I would recommend. Their second album, called Dance or Die, which was released in 2008. Yeah, I like the song Get Your Back Off the Wall. Again, you can hear Solomon's screaming vocals in this one. And you can also hear in this song Joshua and Jacob. I think Jacob does vocals in this one. I mostly hear Joshua, I think. It's somewhat hard to tell the difference between all of their vocals, but if you listen to them enough, you can pick out the differences. And then from their third album, which is literally just called 3, released in 2011, I didn't really get into a lot of the songs on this album. The only one that I would really recommend personally is the first song, called Can You Feel It? It's got a similar sound to like their first album, pretty heavy, and yeah, those are like the sort of classic albums in my opinion. Released the third album, I sort of started to lose interest in the band because some of the lyrics were starting to get a little awkward for my taste, and I was just losing interest in like party music in general. I just wasn't really feeling that, so like around 2013 I just stopped sort of paying attention to the band. But also in 2013, the lead singer Solomon Olds left the band, which I had no idea until I just researched them this week. But he left the band, and they on vocals, he was replaced by Jacob, who was previously playing the drums. So they replaced the drums with a guy named Teddy Bolt, who I don't know anything about, because like I said, I didn't know that they had this change up in the lineup. But in 2014, they released an album called Time Stands Still, which again, I wasn't paying any attention to the band at that time, so I didn't actually listen to this album until about 2017 or so. But it has some really good songs on it, honestly. Like, I would have thought that losing Solomon would have made them not sound as good, but these songs actually sound pretty good. My favorite song on the album is probably Raised by Wolves. It's got that heavy sort of hard rock sound similar to their first album. It's also pretty funky, and Jacob and Joshua's vocals really shine in this album, because they were the only ones singing on it. So, but yeah, check out that song. And then in 2017, 2 of the other band members left. Derek Mount, who was the guitarist, and Nate Curran, who was the keyboardist. They both left in 2017. I guess Teddy Bolts left at some point as well. So in 2017, the only two members that were left in the band were Jacob and Joshua. And they rebranded themselves to FF5, which I don't know why they kept the 5 in there, because there's not 5 members anymore. But probably just because that's what they were going by for years. So they kept the initials, but just shortened it to FF5. And in 2018, they released an album called El Compadre, which I had never heard of until this week. I never listened to it, but I discovered it this week, and it's actually really good. There's 3 songs on it that I would recommend. The first one, there's the single off the album. It's called Fire on the Highway. You gotta check this song out. It's really, really good. It's a totally different sound from their older music. It's more of a synthy, like EDM kind of alt pop sound. And just really sounds more like produced and I don't know how else to describe it. It's just really good and just really I really enjoy it. I don't know what else to say about it. Just check it out and enjoy it. The other song I want to recommend is called Nearsighted. And this song kind of reminds me, the whole album really kind of reminds me of the album Vitals by Mutemath, which foreshadowing, because I'm actually going to talk about them next. But especially on Nearsighted, the synth in the chorus reminds me a lot of the song Used To by Mutemath. And I just really enjoy it. And then the last song from that album that I want to recommend is called Stardust. It's really funky and a little bit like disco-y. Kind of reminds me of Bag Raiders, which I'll probably spotlight them at some point, because they're pretty good. But also reminds me a little bit of the song Joyrides by Mutemath from their album Vitals. Just again, really, really good album. Kind of sad though that it's just the 2 guys left, just Jacob and Joshua, and they haven't posted any updates since 2020, so I don't even know if they're still active and doing anything. I guess at this point it's probably just Family Force 5 is dead, which is kind of sad because I have been listening to them since middle school. But yeah. Another artist that I've been listening to for a long time is Mutemath. And Mutemath has a wild history. Like, they started out in a band called Earthsuit, which is actually how I discovered them. I discovered Earthsuit first, and through them I discovered Mutemath. But Mutemath has such a variety of musical styles that they play. Like, each album I feel like has a different style to it. And I'm not going to talk about all of their music in this episode. I'm only going to spotlight one and a half albums. And I mentioned it in the previous spotlight. It's their album Vitals, which they released in 2015. I'm choosing this one because I feel, to me, it has a more summery sound to it. Just because it's a lot more synthy, a lot more electronic. And they've always had electronic elements in their music, but this album, they really went full hog into the electronic side of things. And what's really cool about this album is that on YouTube, you can watch a few videos of Paul Meany, the lead vocalist, and really the front man of the band. He posted some videos of himself talking about the process of making some of these songs. So if you look up on YouTube, just look up Mutemath Periscope, you'll see these videos. But the first song, called Joyrides, I mentioned it in the previous spotlight. It's very funky, a little disco-y, has a lot of bright synths, very energetic sound. So yeah, it just, when you listen to it, it just feels like you're going on a joyride, you know? Just very like happy sounding and energetic and stuff. Yeah, and then the other song I want to recommend is called Stratosphere. It's a little more thoughtful and emotional sounding, more ambient. It's got like a lot of reverb on the vocals, and it's still pretty groovy, but yeah, it just has a more like, just more ambient, like, yeah, just like echoey sound. And yeah, I would recommend that song. Then the third song from that album that I would recommend is called Used To. It's got like a heavy beat to it and kind of a sort of dubstep-y bass. And it's just like a heavier sort of sound than the other songs on the album, but really cool, really pretty groovy too.
Figured I should know how it's gotta go, 'cause nothing is made to last forever.
Another song I want to recommend is from the album Changes, which is actually a remix album, which has remixes of a lot of the songs on Vitals. And Changes is a song specifically made for that album, and it's one of my favorite songs, probably my favorite song by Mutemath. It's just incredible. It has this cool like wobbly synth that comes in after the chorus, and just like some piano in the background, and yeah, I love the little like the vocal parts and stuff. It's just a song that you can really like just kind of groove to, I guess. So I would highly recommend the song Changes by Mutemath. Alright, and wrapping up with some bonus recommendations. The first one I'm going to recommend is called Extinction in Our Eyes by Club of the Suns. I'm sure like nobody's heard of this band because they're not very well known, but I mentioned Earthsuit when I was talking about Mutemath. Earthsuit was Paul Meany and Adam LaClave. They were the vocalists. Adam LaClave, or LaClave, or however it's pronounced. When Earthsuit kind of broke up, Adam went and formed his own band. He actually first formed a band called Macrosick, which has some really good songs, but they're not on Spotify. I think you can only find them on YouTube. But if you're interested, you should look up Macrosick on YouTube, because they do have some pretty good songs. But then Macrosick broke up, and he started another band called Club of the Suns, and I like the song Extinction in Our Eyes. Very David Bowie vibes with Adam's vocals, and yeah, just kind of a cool tune to listen to.
don't see who's hunting for us, looking at us with mud and face and size. Oh, we see who's hunting for us.
The next song is by Canon Blue called Take 6 from their album Lasso Yo in 2017. It's really cool because it has a 5/4 time signature, which you just don't see that often. And I really dig it. I am all about songs with unusual time signatures. And 5/4 is not even that unusual, but it is different. And I like the sort of like the steel drum in the song, and the chorus is just beautiful. I just am obsessed with the chorus of this song right now. And then the next one, another sort of throwback from like the early 2000s called Falling Up. They were originally like a more hard rock kind of band, but their style sort of developed over time. I haven't honestly listened to much of their music. I only really like a couple of their songs right now, but the one song that I really like is called The Climb, released in 2013. It's very atmospheric and just like really powerful sounding. And there's a section of the song that has some more like time signature changes in it and stuff that just really sounds cool, and has these like rising synth sounds in the background that just give it a really just sort of epic sound that I really like. Fourth would be an artist called Sleepy Sun. They have a song called Sequest that I adore. The guitar is just, it's lovely. I love the guitar riff in this song, and it's super atmospheric. And the background vocals during the verses are just incredible. I love the atmospheric sound of like the background vocals, and yeah, it's really a song to chill to. So check it out for sure. And then to finish up, speaking of really chill atmospheric songs, this one's by Boards of Canada. It's called Day Van Cowboy. Which for the longest time I thought it was Davy Ann Cowboy. I was misreading it, but it's Day Van Cowboy. And it's from their album The Campfire Head Phase in 2005. Just the beginning is it's a really long build up. Like half the song is like the intro. It's kind of weird, but also that's sort of Boards of Canada's style. So like the first half of the song is just kind of an ambient, sort of atmospheric build-up that really is pretty cool to listen to. It's just like sort of ambient, background music. But then like halfway through the song, it just cuts to like a different song practically. Like the guitar comes in, and then the drums come in, and then there's this just really beautiful violin that plays throughout the song, and yeah, I just love it. I love this song, so check it out. Alright, well that wraps it up for this episode. As always, check out the Spotify playlist in the description, and possibly some other links that I'll post in the description, because I mentioned some YouTube videos that I would recommend watching. So yeah, read the description and check out some of the links there. And stay tuned for next week's episode. Hopefully Mike will be here, and we'll talk about some other of our favorite summer bands. and it's going to be a really good episode. So yeah, thanks for hanging with me and vibing with me, and we'll see you next time.